edition of Conversations with the Universe. Today, I am so pleased and delighted to interview the beautiful Asha Frost. And welcome, Asha, to Conversations with the Universe.
Thank you so much for having me.
We are at opposite ends of the country. You are in Ontario, in Canada, where I used to live, and it's such a beautiful part of the world, and I'm at the other end of Canada on the west coast on Vancouver Island, so we couldn't be further apart as far as Canada is concerned.
Yes.
But I have a deep resonance for the land that you live on because it was my land as well for 30 years, or the land that I adopted because I came to Canada as an immigrant from Poland. And I'm really interested in having this conversation with you because there's a lot of questions that I have as a white immigrant to Canada, and I have a lot of reverence for the land that I now call home. So can I start with your bio so everybody can know who you are? Asha Frost is an Ojibway medicine woman, a healer and spiritual mentor. She is a member of the Chippewas of Nawash First Nation. Did I say that last word right?
Yeah.
Awesome. As a soul seer and visionary, Asha believes that we can all reclaim our roots and deepest medicines. Asha has facilitated healing with thousands of people through the use of Indigenous Based Ceremony, teachings, and sacred circle. As a teacher and leader, her purpose is to help women connect to the magic of spirit within their lives so they can root down and be of service to the world. Whew, that feels so good. Thank you so much for doing this work.
Thank you.
The first question that I would like to ask you is, what do you think of when you think of being sovereign as a woman?
Goodness, that's such a good question. I think, I always tend to get answers in visions. So the image that I see is I see myself standing at the edge of the Great Lakes for some reason. And I see myself really rooted and grounded. And I see myself being able to take a really big, deep breath. So there's something about the ability to be rooted and grounded in who you are, to be connected to that presence and power within that truly, I believe, is unique to everyone. And the ability to have a vision, I think, for the collective and for the medicine that you're bringing to the world. So that's the vision that I got when you asked that question, just seeing myself standing in front of the Great Lakes, rooted and grounded.
Thank you so much for that. And I love that you received a vision, or even a visual, for the answer for that question, because I think that that's something that you can teach so well in what I've read of what you do in the world, in how we can really tap into what our visions are, or tap into what our dream time brings us. And so maybe you could just talk to us first a little bit about what it is that you do and in the things that you teach.
Sure. So it's obviously evolved over the years, but I started my practice as a homeopath.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I was 27 and I went to school for psychology, and then I went to post-secondary after that to do homeopathy school. So I had a private practice, and, I was like raring to go. I'm going to have this business. And that provided so much healing and growth for me because, of course, they don't teach you business in homeopathy schools. So I became an entrepreneur, and that was really very soul stretching and deepening. And the clients and patients that I would call into my practice, I would start to see visions around them. And at the time, I wasn't really practicing medicine work. I'd always known I was a dreamer, and I could see, and spirit would come to me, but it wasn't something I really put out there in the world. But they kept coming and coming, and all of my patients would come with animal spirits, or their ancestors would show up around them. And I start to think, geez, I better start incorporating this into my practice because it's a really important part of them that's showing up. So I would start making that known to them. And we started doing some shamanic journeying. And then eventually it turned into more of a healing practice. So I got a healing table, and, I would take some trainings in shamanism and different medicine work. And then people just started coming for that purpose. But it was always based in my own journey because I was trying to heal from a chronic illness. So every healer workshop book, all the things that I did to try to heal myself started to flow out of me as medicine when I served everyone else. So it really, I always say it comes back to that. Like, what am I healing in my own life? How can I dig deeper? What can I unfold here? And then how is that going to be used as medicine for the people that I serve? And it somehow just unfolds that way for my life, at least. But I believe for everyone, that's how we learn. It's a really beautiful way of learning that we don't always pay attention to or give credit to. We kind of don't see as much value in our own journey as being the teacher.
Wow, I really love that. And I love that you say it's based in your own journey, in your own healing. And what a transition, like it must have been. I mean, and I think that homeopathy must be something that is also very rewarding. I'm a great believer in homeopathy and use homeopathy in my daily life. So I imagine that was rewarding in itself. Yes. But how amazing that you really listen to your heart and you listen to the experience you were having and that you expanded towards that, is as opposed to, like sometimes we go to school and we study certain things and then we're like, okay, this is who I am and this is what I am and this is what I have to offer. But it must have taken a lot of introspection, a lot of courage to dig deeper and say, this is what spirit is showing me and this is the path that I'm going to follow. So were people surprised that you took this diversion, or were they kind of not surprised because they kind of knew that you were more of an adventurer and an explorer?
I think it was really natural, like a natural evolution. I think people, this is what I tell my mentorship clients or the people that I'm serving. I say, people are really coming to see you, right? It doesn't matter the titles, the courses, all the certificates on your wall. I mean, maybe that matters to some people, but ultimately they're coming to see your presence and they're coming to feel your medicine. So I developed a practice where people were just, my name, it was word of mouth, it would get out and people just like, I want to come see you no matter what you give me or no matter what you're doing. I just want to come see you. And I think I just learned the power of that, of like, even sitting in presence, like as a sacred space holder, can heal so much. And no matter what modality you're practicing, holding space for people, I think is way more profound as a healing medicine and tool than we ever could know. And that's what I think one of my main medicines is just that holding space and seeing people at their core, beyond the wounds that they express to me. I always see their medicine. So I don't think people were surprised. I recently did give up my homeopathy license. Not everybody knows that.
After having it for
years, they know now. That took a little bit of courage because there was still that part of me that was kind of holding on to that degree or whatever that meant to be a homeopath, or that identification, I think.
Yeah.
But ultimately where I want to go and where I am going, it's not really, homeopathy is always a part of me. It's rooted. I know how to practice it. I've done it for thousands of people, but it's just a part of me now. I don't need that certificate to say to me that medicine works through me.
Yeah. And that really speaks so loudly to me because I went through a whole phase where I was very concerned about what people would think about what certificates I had or didn't have. And always Spirit said to me, people are coming to you because you hold the specific medicine that they need. And they really don't care what certificate you have. And there was no way really of certifying what I was offering to them. It was kind of this witchy, pagan, mystic kind of thing. And they were coming for the energy of that, but I couldn't really certify it in any way. So I really find that to be quite profound, to be able to listen to that voice that says, people are coming to see you and you're holding space for them and you're being of service. Yeah, I really, really appreciate that. And how do you find, because I know that you teach your Aboriginal customs to a variety of people? Do you serve mainly women or mainly men, or is it a
It's
mix?
mostly women. It's mostly women.
Mostly women, yeah.
And it's even more recently all women. But it used to be. There used to be some men I would love when men would come to my circles. That would just bring me a lot
Yeah.
of joy. But it seemed to kind of die off. So it's women.
Yeah. So yeah, you kind of found the clientele who really resonated with, with what you were offering. So how did you find your way to teaching your Aboriginal culture to the women that you are serving? How do you find that it's, because I know you wrote a letter that said, "Dear White Woman," and I read that and it really affected me and it opened a lot of thought process in me and heart opening as well. How did you come to that place where you were teaching that?
That was to a natural evolution. I started doing healing circles, and my audience was primarily non-Indigenous. So that just came to be. Most of my community is non-Indigenous, and of course, people are curious, and I
Yeah.
see our teachings as a gateway in, right? So I see them as, they may not be your traditions and your ceremonies, but I'm sure that if you're drawn to them, that your ancestors practice something similar. I've never been one to say, like, claiming like this is mine and that is yours. I just think this is a gateway, which is why I think I'm a bit of a bridge to like bring my traditions as a spark or an igniting energy to people so that they can awaken to their own knowing and their own ancestry. And maybe people need to study a little bit before that happens, right? So I kind of address it with compassion. Now that letter that I wrote has been in me for 15 years since I started practicing, because what I would see is, there would be people in my community that are non-Indigenous teaching my teachings when I didn't even feel like I had so much wounding to get through before I felt like I was able to do that. And white women don't carry that same intergenerational trauma or the wounding that, my grandparents were in residential schools. It was stripped from them. So there's just a lot for me to reclaim those things. So to see a non-Indigenous person, we just claim it right away and use it for profit was really harmful. And that wouldn't happen a lot, but the times it did, it would take my breath away. And I just thought, I need to speak to this, but I was so terrified because I am a people pleaser. I don't want people to be mad at me, but I started to see how it was affecting my own physical health and also how it was being played out in my children. And that's where it stopped. And I'm like, I need to speak on this, to set this boundary, to invite in people who are wanting to learn in a respectful way, and not to take just to take and then to leave the rest behind. So that letter was a really huge part of my healing journey. And I think it brought more of the community that I'm looking to serve in. And then maybe set a boundary for those who just want to appropriate and take without holding the whole picture of what Indigenous people are going through every day in this country.
Thank you for that. I went through many, many layers of emotions when I read that letter. And it went like the whole gamut of, oh, I really didn't understand. Like I felt shame and I felt guilt and then I felt a huge outpouring of love for your words because I needed to know what you were saying. And I know that a lot of us need to know what you are saying. And the thing is, even though not knowing is not really an excuse, that we should try to know, like we should try to learn what is happening. But in a way, I mean, I still felt that I really felt the wounding of what had been appropriated through your words. And, I feel that I had not a similar wound, but a wound of being torn away from my culture and my country when I was adopted from Poland to Canada. So I could feel like kind of into the energy of what you were saying, what it means to have your culture taken away and what it means to not be understood or not be valued for what it is that you bring to the conversation of humanity. And so I really, really appreciate that you had the courage, to write it, and knowing that everything comes out as it should, when it should, like, when your spirit is ready to really articulate it in a way that is going to land, for other people. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And the shame and guilt piece is so you know, when I'm doing lives around this issue, I get a lot more because people can hear my tone, they can see my energy speaking,
Mm,
right? So when in words, it's so much different. And I wasn't really prepared for that because I wrote it in love and compassion because I love white women. Like they're the biggest part of my community. They're my best friends. You know, it's not, it wasn't like a thing against white women. People got so triggered by that word. And I'm like, well, people call somebody like an indigenous woman, like it's the same thing. It's just an Asian woman doesn't appropriate my culture. A black woman doesn't appropriate like those women don't tend to appropriate my culture. So it is the white women that I had to speak to. And the shame and the guilt, I always say to people, like, just lean back and just have compassion for yourself in those moments, because I'm not blaming or shaming anybody or saying you did anything wrong. It's just now you know, and now you can choose to do something with that, just like we all learn, right? So I make mistakes every single day, and I think I need to have more compassion for what I'm learning about. And that's what I hold for others too, that I just hope that they can turn that shame into compassion in some way, just like you did, have the love just poured out. That's a beautiful transformation for me to witness, that that's what happened for you.
mm.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah, and undeniably, no matter, I'm a writer, so I know what the impact of words are, and that a lot of times we can write something with a specific intention, and we can be enveloped in love when we write it, but we have no control over how somebody else is going to receive it. And one thing that I thought about, you know, when I read your letter is how I don't know how that feels because, you know, even though through adoption, you know, my culture was stripped away, but I don't see a lot of people running around imitating white Polish women. You know what I mean? Like, I
No,
don't
that's pretty rare.
so I don't know what it feels like to have somebody take on the mantle of my culture and then go someplace with it and do something with it and kind of own it as their own. I don't understand that wound in that way. And so it was really profound for me to, now that I knew, now what was I going to do with it? And now everything that I do that has something to do like with Indigenous culture that is Indigenous to Canada. For instance, I had a beautiful Aboriginal elder friend when I was in Ontario, and he gave me his rattle, his ceremonial rattle. When I use that now, it has so much more profound meaning for me because now I'm thinking more and I'm feeling more into the culture, and I'm trying to understand what this gift is, and knowing that the land I stand on, like Vancouver Island, is unceded land. So knowing, you know, and acknowledging whose land this is has so much more profound meaning for me. So I really thank you for having the courage to step out and share what you needed to share. And I know that although there may have been triggers and there may have been backlash, you know, we must, as women of any culture, stand up with our words, you know, and with our truth. So,
Yes, thank you.
yeah. And so today I'm celebrating from my pagan culture. I'm celebrating Halloween, or what I call Samhain, more from the Celtic, from my Celtic roots. And I know that I'm going to be calling in my ancestors today. I have their pictures on my altar, and I'm going to be speaking to them and asking them, leaving water for them on my altar so that they may drink, and asking them for their wisdom. And so I wondered if you could share with us a little bit of how you interact with your ancestors and what that means.
Yes. I mean, we do something similar. We feast our ancestors, right? So during
Mm-hmm.
ceremony or after ceremony, if we're praying for something, we usually leave some traditional foods down. But I'm in communication with my ancestors all the time. I think growing up, my mother she always spoke of that as like a really normal thing. Like, you know, they come visit me in my dreams, and they speak to me. Like, she just kind of made it a normal thing. So I just kind of felt like, right, they're my guides. They're the main ones, I'd say, between those and the animal guides are the ones that are around me all the time. So my grandfather passed away last year, and he speaks to me all the time, and I can just feel his presence around me. So he comes to me every morning in the shower, and he downloads things for me. And just water is such a medicine for me, and it's a communicator for me. So that is the way that he tends to come. And then dream time too. You know, I get messages from my ancestors through the dreams that there's very particular ones that show up for me. But from an energetic standpoint, I guess I feel like when I'm doing healing work, the grandmothers come, right? So our word for grandmother is Nokomis. So it's like, I call in Nokomis and I call in Mishomis, and they to me are like the medicine people ancestors who come and they channel their energy through my hands, through my heart, through my being. And it just kind of envelops people in that ancestral glow almost, because they are there as helpers. And I believe they dreamed us here. We are the dreams that they are hoping for, right? We are the ones that are breaking the intergenerational curses and the trauma and doing the work that needs to be done, so it's not carried forward in the 7 generations going ahead. And I believe a lot of us who are here as light workers and healers are those chosen ones to do the work and to break those. I keep hearing the word curses, and I'm not sure why that's how they're informing me today, but there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of heavy stuff that we're here to break through, so that we can just infuse more light, I think, ahead of us, and dream a more healed world into being. So that's how they work through me. And they're always around. They're kind of a part of me. That's what I feel. They're part of you. You know, they're part of everyone.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And I do believe that also. And I also do, in my healing mother wound work, we do a lot of we create a lot of connections with past generations, but also future generations. So this ancestor work is very, very deep. And I always say to the people who come to me that as we heal ourselves, we heal past generations and we heal future generations. And as I understand it, our future lives, our present lives, and our past lives are all happening at the same time. And we are experiencing each other in this very intuitive way. And so I really appreciate what you're saying, that, you know, if your grandfather comes to you in the shower every day, you know, what a beautiful connection. Like, what a way to start the day, and to know that you are supported, you know?
Yes. And I think, you know, the one resistance piece that I feel when I do this work with people in groups is they say, well, I didn't like my ancestors. You know, I didn't have a good relationship with my grandmother or my aunt. They were really grumpy, or whatever they say, right? And I just have to remind them, it's not only the ones that you know, right? It's sort of like they're like a whole group of guides almost. So tune into that energy instead, if you don't like your direct ancestors. I think that's a common thing for many people too, you know, because we come in, we might not, our born into family might not be our soul family. So we might have a lot of issues with our family that have recently passed. So it doesn't have to be that connection only. There's greater connection in the ancestral realm that wants to come as like helper spirits for sure.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I do resonate with that. I resisted putting my adoptive mother on my altar for a while when I was healing mother wound, because I thought, well, you know, I'm not sure if I want her energy on my altar. But also, since she has transitioned, I realized how much she is so much more alive, you know, in the new world that she's in, and that she understands herself more, and that I can connect with her, like with her higher self. And she has become a part of that bundle, you know, of spirit guides who come and visit. But as you say, it's true. It's the ancestors that we don't know as well that we tap into.
Yeah.
Thank you, Asha. I am so pleased that we had this time together, and I really appreciate you setting aside this time in your morning or I guess it's not morning for you, it's morning for me.
It's afternoon, but yeah.
And where can people find you if they would like to connect with your energy or your healing work or your writing? How can they best find you?
My website, ashafrost.com, is an easy place to find me. And I'm on Instagram quite a bit. So it's asha.frost. Yeah. And I love to connect with people on Instagram. So if you want to find me on there, just give me a follow and I'll follow you back.
Alrighty. And I will create a little link in our video so that people can have an easy easy connection to you.
Amazing.
And so thank you, and so many blessings to you, and thank you so much for your kind and your loving energy today.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you, and we'll speak again.
Bye for now.